Ladies and gentlemen, I want to begin with a simple question. How many great ideas have you had that never became anything? Not because they weren't good enough, not because you didn't have the talent, not because someone stopped you. They never became anything because they stayed in your mind. They lived there, where they felt safe. They were planned, analyzed, questioned, improved, and imagined over and over again, until one day they quietly disappeared. You see, the greatest enemy of success is not failure. Most people think failure is what they should fear, but that's not the real danger. The real danger is spending so much time thinking about life that you never actually begin it. It's allowing doubt to become your daily routine. It's convincing yourself that you'll start tomorrow, next week, next month, or when everything finally feels right. But let me tell you something about tomorrow. Tomorrow has a strange habit of moving farther away every time you reach for it. And while you're waiting for the perfect moment, someone else is building the life you keep dreaming about. Have you ever noticed how your mind works when you're about to do something important? Maybe you want to start a business. Suddenly, your mind begins asking questions. What if it doesn't work? What if people laugh at me? What if I lose money? What if I'm not smart enough? What if I fail? And before long, you've created so many imaginary problems that you never give yourself the chance to discover the real outcome. The human mind is an incredible tool, but if you don't learn to control it, it can become your biggest obstacle. It has an amazing ability to invent fears that don't even exist. It can convince you that taking one small step is more dangerous than standing completely still. It whispers that waiting is safer. It tells you that one more day of preparation will make all the difference. But here's the truth. Waiting rarely makes you stronger. More often, it simply makes you more comfortable with staying where you are. Think about it. Every year, people buy notebooks filled with goals. They watch videos, read books, attend seminars, and make detailed plans. Planning has value. Learning has value. Preparation has value. But there comes a point where preparation quietly turns into procrastination. It disguises itself as responsibility. It makes you feel productive because you're thinking about success instead of pursuing it. You cannot think your way into a better future if your feet never move. Life has always rewarded movement. The farmer doesn't sit in his house hoping crops will appear. The builder doesn't imagine a house into existence. The musician doesn't become remarkable by thinking about practicing. Results belong to those who act. Now, does that mean every action will succeed? Of course not. Sometimes you'll make mistakes. Sometimes you'll choose the wrong direction. Sometimes you'll discover that your first idea wasn't your best one. But those experiences are not your enemies. They're your teachers. The person who acts and learns will always move ahead of the person who only thinks and wonders. Too many people want certainty before commitment. They want guarantees before effort. They want confidence before action. But life doesn't work that way. Confidence isn't handed to you at the beginning of the journey. It's earned with every step you take, every challenge you face, every obstacle you overcome. If you wait until fear disappears, you'll wait forever. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is deciding that your dreams deserve a chance, even while fear is sitting beside you. Every successful person you've ever admired has felt uncertain. They've questioned themselves. They've wondered whether they were capable. The difference is they didn't allow those questions to make their decisions. And here's something worth remembering. The cost of overthinking is rarely visible in a single day. That's why it's so dangerous. One day of hesitation doesn't seem important. One missed opportunity doesn't feel life-changing. One delayed decision appears harmless. But weeks become months. Months become years. Eventually, people wake up wondering where all the time went. Life didn't pass them by because they lacked ability. It passed them by because they stayed on the sidelines, waiting for permission that was never going to come. Your future isn't built by the ideas you keep inside your head. It's built by the actions you take when your heart is uncertain and your mind is full of questions. The moment you stop letting doubt control your choices is the moment your life begins to change. So stop giving fear the microphone and give action the first step. Now, once you decide that overthinking is no longer going to control your life, something remarkable begins to happen. you start to discover a truth that most people spend years searching for. Confidence does not come before action. It comes because of action. That's one of the biggest misunderstandings people have about success. They say, I'll start when I feel confident. They believe confidence is something you wake up with one morning, like the sun rising outside your window. But confidence doesn't work that way. It's not a gift reserved for a lucky few. It's a reward earned by those willing to take the first step before they feel ready. Think back to the first time you learned something new. Maybe it was riding a bicycle, speaking in front of a group, driving a car, or beginning a new job. Were you confident on the first day? Of course not. You were nervous. You made mistakes. You questioned yourself. But each time you tried again, something changed. The fear became smaller. The uncertainty became quieter. And your confidence grew stronger. Not because you thought about it, because you did it. Experience has a way of teaching lessons that no amount of planning ever could. You can read every book on leadership, but until you lead people, you won't truly understand it. You can study business for years, but until you make decisions that carry real consequences, your education remains incomplete. You can listen to motivational speeches every single day, but unless those words become action, inspiration fades as quickly as it arrived. Action transforms information into wisdom. That's why the people who move forward in life are not always the smartest people in the room. They are often the ones willing to be beginners. They accept that looking inexperienced is part of becoming experienced. They understand that mistakes are not proof of failure. They are evidence of progress. Far too many people protect themselves from embarrassment so carefully that they also protect themselves from growth. They avoid trying because they don't want to appear imperfect. They stay silent because they're afraid of saying the wrong thing. They postpone their goals because they imagine someone else is more qualified. Yet every expert you admire once stood exactly where you are now. Every accomplished person had a first attempt that wasn't impressive. Every master was once a beginner who refused to quit. The difference wasn't talent. The difference was persistence. You don't build confidence by waiting for life to become easier. You build it by proving to yourself, one decision at a time, that you can handle whatever comes next. Every challenge you overcome sends a message to your mind. It says, I survived that. Maybe I can handle the next one too. That's how confidence is built. Not all at once, but layer by layer. Imagine someone standing at the edge of a cold swimming pool. They keep saying they're waiting until the water feels warmer. But the water isn't going to change because they keep standing there. Eventually, they realize the only way to adjust is to get in. The first few moments are uncomfortable, but after a while, what once felt impossible becomes completely natural. Life works much the same way. Most of the things you fear lose their power once you face them. The conversation you've been avoiding, the opportunity you've been delaying, the dream you've been postponing. They all seem much larger from a distance than they do once you begin. Fear grows in imagination. Confidence grows through experience. Now, that doesn't mean every step will bring immediate success. Sometimes you'll take action and discover that your plan needs adjusting. Sometimes you'll fail. Sometimes you'll have to begin again. But failure experienced through action is infinitely more valuable than success imagined, only in your mind. Why? Because action gives you feedback. You learn what works. You learn what doesn't. You gain insight that no classroom can provide. You become wiser, stronger, and more capable with every attempt. The person who keeps moving is constantly improving, while the person who keeps waiting remains exactly where they started. Success has never demanded perfection. It has only asked for participation. You don't need to have every answer before you begin. You don't need to eliminate every doubt. You don't need to know exactly how the entire journey will unfold. You simply need enough courage to take the next step. And once you take that step, the next one becomes easier. Then another. Then another. Before long, you look back and realize you've traveled farther than you ever imagined possible. That's the remarkable thing about action. It doesn't just change your circumstances. It changes you. The person who acts consistently becomes more resilient, more resourceful, more optimistic, more prepared for whatever life places in front of them. You begin to trust yourself, not because life has become predictable, but because you've proven that you can adapt. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what can I learn? That single shift changes everything. So don't wait for confidence to knock on your door. Build it with every step you take, every lesson you learn, and every challenge you refuse to run from. Because confidence never leads action. Action leads confidence. Once you begin to understand that confidence is built through action, another excuse starts to lose its power. It's the excuse that sounds responsible, intelligent, and even wise. It goes something like this. I'm just waiting for the right time. How many dreams have been postponed because of those 7 words? People say they'll start the business when the economy improves. They'll begin exercising when work becomes less busy. They'll write the book when life becomes less stressful. They'll invest when they have more money. They'll pursue the opportunity when they know a little more. They convince themselves that success is simply a matter of timing, that one perfect day will arrive when every obstacle disappears and every condition finally falls into place. But let me ask you something. Have you ever lived through a season when everything was perfect? Life has a way of replacing one challenge with another. When your schedule becomes lighter, something unexpected comes along. When you solve one problem, another one appears. That's not a sign that you're unlucky. That's simply life. It has never promised perfect conditions. It has only offered opportunities hidden inside imperfect moments. The people who accomplish extraordinary things understand this. They don't wait for life to become easier. They learn to become stronger while life remains difficult. Think about a farmer for a moment. The farmer doesn't spend the season wishing for ideal weather every single day. Some days bring sunshine. Others bring storms. Some years are generous, while others test every ounce of patience. Yet the seeds still have to be planted. If the farmer waits until every forecast guarantees perfect conditions, the harvest never comes. Your goals work the same way. You have to plant the seeds before you can expect the harvest. And planting always requires faith. It requires believing that today's effort will produce tomorrow's reward, even when you can't yet see the results. Too many people reverse the order. They want proof before effort. They want guarantees before commitment. But life doesn't hand out guarantees. It hands out possibilities. What you do with those possibilities determines your future. Here's something worth remembering. Perfection is often nothing more than fear dressed in expensive clothing. It sounds reasonable when you say, I just want to be fully prepared. It sounds responsible when you tell yourself, I'll wait until everything is in place. But if you've been saying the same thing for months, or even years, you have to ask yourself an honest question. Am I preparing, or am I hiding? That's a difficult question because it forces us to confront something we'd rather avoid. Sometimes we stay in preparation because preparation feels safe. No one criticizes you for getting ready. No one judges you for making another plan. But the moment you step into action, the possibility of failure becomes real. So many people choose endless preparation simply because it protects them from temporary disappointment. Unfortunately, it also protects them from success. You don't discover your potential by thinking about what you might do someday. You discover it by stepping into situations where you're forced to grow. Consider how every meaningful achievement begins. It begins with an imperfect first attempt. The first speech isn't polished. The first business isn't flawless. The first workout isn't impressive. The first chapter isn't a masterpiece. Every worthwhile journey starts with someone who is willing to be uncomfortable. That's encouraging, because it means you don't have to be extraordinary to begin. You simply have to begin. The truth is, you'll never know everything before you start. There will always be information you don't have, skills you haven't mastered, and challenges you didn't anticipate. But here's the remarkable part. Many of the answers you face only reveal themselves after you've taken the first step. Action has a way of opening doors that planning alone never can. When you're standing still, the road ahead always seems uncertain. But once you start moving, your perspective changes. You notice opportunities you couldn't see before. You meet people you would have never encountered. You gain experience that no amount of studying could have provided. Progress creates clarity. Waiting creates uncertainty. That's why successful people often appear lucky. From the outside, it looks as though opportunities simply found them. But what others call luck is often the result of movement. They were already taking action when the opportunity appeared. They were already learning, growing, and improving while others were still waiting for ideal conditions. Opportunity has an interesting habit of finding people who are already in motion. Now, does that mean you should act recklessly? Of course not. Think carefully. Prepare wisely. Learn continuously. But don't confuse preparation with postponement. There comes a moment when gathering more information adds very little value, and the only thing left to do is take the leap. Remember, your future is not built in moments of perfect certainty. It's built in moments when you decide that your dreams are more important than your excuses. Every great accomplishment in history began with someone who accepted uncertainty as part of the journey rather than a reason to stay behind. The clock is moving whether you move or not. Another year will pass whether you chase your dreams or continue waiting for permission that never arrives. The question is not whether the perfect moment will come. The question is what you'll do with the moment you already have. Because the perfect time has never existed, and it never will. The only time that can change your life is the one you're living right now. By now, you've seen why waiting for confidence holds you back, and why waiting for the perfect moment keeps your dreams permanently on hold. But even after people begin taking action, there's another challenge waiting for them. It's the challenge that determines whether success becomes a lasting reality or just a temporary burst of enthusiasm. That challenge is consistency. Most people love the feeling of motivation. It feels exciting. You hear an inspiring message, read a powerful book, watch someone accomplish something remarkable, and suddenly you feel like you can conquer the world. For a few hours, maybe even a few days, everything seems possible. You make plans, you set goals. You promise yourself that this time will be different. Then Monday arrives. Work becomes demanding. The alarm clock rings a little earlier than you'd like. Unexpected problems show up. Your energy isn't as high as it was when you first made the decision. Little by little, the excitement fades, and many people stop doing the very things they promised themselves they would continue. That's because motivation is an emotion, and emotions are wonderful servants, but terrible leaders. If your life is guided only by how you feel, then your progress will rise and fall with your moods. Some mornings you'll feel unstoppable. Other mornings you'll feel tired, distracted, or discouraged. If feelings determine your actions, then your future becomes unpredictable. That's why discipline matters so much. Discipline is making a decision once and honoring it repeatedly. It is choosing what matters most over what feels easiest. It is understanding that today's small effort is building tomorrow's opportunities, even when today's effort doesn't seem dramatic. Think about the people you admire most. Whether they're successful in business, sports, music, or any other field, their success wasn't created by one extraordinary day. It was created by thousands of ordinary days that nobody applauded. Days when they practiced without recognition. Days when they worked while others relaxed. Days when they kept going, even though the results hadn't arrived yet. Success has always been built quietly before it is celebrated publicly. People often admire the finished product, while overlooking the disciplined process that made it possible. Imagine a bricklayer building a house. He places one brick today, another tomorrow, and another the next day. If you walked by after the first week, you might not be impressed. It doesn't look like much. But if he keeps placing bricks with patience and precision, eventually a beautiful home stands where there was once empty ground. Your habits are those bricks. Every workout is a brick. Every page you read is a brick. Every dollar you save is a brick. Every promise you keep to yourself is another brick. Individually, they may seem insignificant, but together, they create the foundation of an extraordinary life. Here's where many people become discouraged. They expect immediate rewards for consistent effort. They go to the gym for a week and expect dramatic changes. They start a business for a month and expect enormous profits. They read one book and expect complete transformation. Life rarely works that way. Nature teaches us patience. You don't plant a seed in the morning and expect fruit by the afternoon. Growth happens beneath the surface, long before it becomes visible above the ground. For weeks, sometimes months, it may appear that nothing is happening at all. Yet beneath the soil, roots are growing stronger every single day. Your own progress often follows the same pattern. There will be seasons when your efforts seem invisible. You'll wonder whether your work is making any difference. You'll question whether it's worth continuing. Those are the moments that separate dreamers from achievers. Anyone can work hard when results come quickly. Discipline means continuing when the rewards haven't arrived yet. It's waking up early because you've made a commitment, not because you feel excited. It's practicing your craft after a long day, because excellence demands repetition. It's choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term comfort. Comfort is appealing because it asks nothing from you. Discipline is rewarding because it gives everything back to you. One strengthens excuses, the other strengthens character, and never underestimate the importance of character. Skills may open doors, but character determines how long those doors remain open. Opportunities may appear because of talent, but lasting success belongs to people who can be trusted to keep showing up, keep improving, and keep doing what needs to be done regardless of circumstances. When you become disciplined, something remarkable happens inside you. You stop negotiating with yourself every morning. You stop asking whether you feel like taking action. The decision has already been made. You simply follow through. That kind of consistency creates momentum. Momentum creates progress. And progress creates a life that once seemed impossible. Remember, the world is filled with people who had enough motivation to start. Far fewer possess the discipline to continue. The finish line is often reached, not by the fastest person, not by the most gifted person, but by the one who refused to stop taking the next step. So don't build your future on feelings that come and go. Build it on habits that stand firm, day after day. Because motivation may get you started, but discipline is what carries you all the way to the finish. When you choose action over hesitation, stop waiting for perfect conditions, and commit yourself to daily discipline. Something begins to happen that is far more important than achieving a goal. You begin to change as a person, and that's the part most people never see. They think success is about reaching a destination. They imagine there's a finish line where everything suddenly becomes easier, where confidence is permanent, problems disappear, and life finally feels complete. But success has never been only about what you achieve. It has always been about who you become while you're achieving it. That's why every small action matters. People often underestimate the value of small decisions because they judge them one at a time. They think, missing one workout won't matter. Reading one less chapter won't make a difference. Putting this task off until tomorrow isn't a big deal. They're right in one sense. One decision by itself rarely changes your life. But life is never shaped by one decision. Life is shaped by thousands of decisions quietly stacked on top of one another. Imagine a sculptor standing before a massive block of stone. On the first day, he chips away only a tiny piece. If you walked into the workshop, you might not even notice the difference. The second day, another small piece disappears. Then another. Then another. Weeks pass before the shape begins to emerge. Months later, people stand in admiration, calling it a masterpiece. What they celebrate is not one powerful strike of the hammer. They celebrate the thousands of small strikes that slowly revealed what was hidden inside the D stone. Your character is formed the same way. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you remove a little more doubt. Every time you keep your word, even when no one is watching, you strengthen your integrity. Every time you face something difficult instead of avoiding it, you become a little more courageous. Those moments seem ordinary while you're living them, but together, they create an extraordinary person. The remarkable thing is that every action casts a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. If you repeatedly choose excuses, you're training yourself to expect less from your own potential. If you repeatedly choose effort, you're training yourself to believe that challenges are opportunities rather than obstacles. The habits you practice eventually become the person you recognize in the mirror. That's why it's dangerous to wait for giant moments that will supposedly change everything. Most transformations don't happen in one dramatic event. They happen quietly, almost invisibly. One good decision leads to another. One productive day becomes a productive week. A productive week becomes a productive month. Before long, you've built a life that once seemed impossible. Not because of one heroic effort, but because of countless ordinary ones. People are fascinated by overnight success. But what they call overnight success is usually the result of years of unnoticed consistency. While others were sleeping in, someone was learning. While others were making excuses, someone was practicing. While others were waiting for better circumstances, someone was making the most of the circumstances they already had. That's how greatness is built. Not through occasional brilliance, through daily commitment. Here's another truth worth remembering. Every promise you make to yourself is either building self-trust or weakening it. Think about that. When you tell yourself you're going to wake up early and you do it, your mind begins to believe your own words. When you say you'll finish the project and you follow through, you become more dependable, not just to others, but to yourself. But every time you repeatedly abandon your commitments, a quiet message begins to settle into your thinking. It says, maybe I can't rely on myself. That belief is far more damaging than any outside criticism. The good news is that self-trust can be rebuilt one action at a time. Not through positive thinking alone, not through wishing, through keeping small promises consistently. Never underestimate the power of finishing what you start. Never underestimate the value of showing up when no one expects you to. Never underestimate the importance of doing the little things well. The world often rewards visible achievements, but those achievements are almost always supported by invisible habits. You don't become a stronger person because life suddenly becomes easier. You become stronger because each challenge gives you another opportunity to practice resilience. Every obstacle becomes another chance to prove to yourself that you can continue. Every setback becomes another lesson that sharpens your wisdom instead of stealing your hope. One day you'll look back and realize that the biggest reward wasn't the money you earned, the recognition you received, or even the goals you accomplished. The greatest reward was becoming someone capable of accomplishing them. That's a transformation no one can take away from you. So as you move forward from this day, don't measure your life only by the size of your victories. Measure it by the quality of your daily choices. Because every small action is shaping your future, strengthening your character, and creating the person you're destined to become. Great lives are never built in giant leaps. They are built one faithful step at a time. As we come to the end of our time together, I want to leave you with one final thought, perhaps the most important thought of all. Everything we've talked about today comes down to a single moment. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not next year. This moment. Because every meaningful change in your life begins with one decision. Think about it. Every success story you've ever admired started long before the world noticed. There wasn't a spotlight. There wasn't applause. There wasn't certainty. There was simply a person who reached a point where they became tired of making excuses and finally decided to move. That's how every journey begins. One decision, one step, one action. It doesn't look dramatic at first. In fact, it often looks so small that most people ignore it. But never underestimate the power of a single decision made with conviction. A single decision can change the direction of an entire lifetime. One decision to wake up earlier. One decision to stop wasting hours on distractions. One decision to make the phone call you've been avoiding. One decision to apply for the opportunity you keep talking yourself out of. One decision to forgive someone and free your own heart. One decision to invest in your growth instead of your comfort. The future isn't created all at once. It's created one decision at a time. Too many people believe their life will change because something outside of them changes. They wait for a better economy. They wait for the right opportunity. They wait for someone to recognize their talent. They wait for luck to arrive. But history has always belonged to people who stopped waiting. The greatest opportunities often appear after you've already begun moving. Doors have a remarkable way of opening for people who are willing to walk down the hallway instead of sitting in the waiting room. Don't misunderstand this. Life will still test you. There will still be disappointments. There will still be moments when your efforts seem unnoticed and your progress feels painfully slow. There will be mornings when you'll question yourself and evenings when you wonder whether all the hard work is worth it. In those moments, remember what we've talked about today. Remember that overthinking never built a dream. Remember that confidence follows action. Remember that the perfect moment never arrives. Remember that discipline carries you when motivation disappears. Remember that every small action is shaping the person you're becoming. Those aren't just ideas. They're principles. And principles have a remarkable quality. They work whether you feel like following them or not. Just as planting good seeds eventually produces a harvest, living by the right principles eventually produces the right results. You don't have to race against anyone else. You don't have to compare your beginning to someone else's middle. You don't have to prove your worth to people who never believed in you. The only person you need to become better than is the person you were yesterday. That's a race you can win every single day. Imagine where your life could be 1 year from now if you simply honored the commitments you made today. Imagine what would happen if, instead of searching for shortcuts, you embraced steady progress. Imagine how different your future would look if every morning you asked yourself one simple question: what's the next right step? And then you actually took it. It may not seem like much on any given day, but one day becomes 1 week. 1 week becomes 1 month. 1 month becomes 1 year. And 1 year of faithful action can produce results that people mistake for talent, luck, or genius. The truth is, they weren't witnessing luck. They were witnessing consistency. Never allow yourself to believe that your circumstances have the final word. Circumstances influence you, but they do not define you. Your past may explain where you've been, but it does not have the authority to decide where you're going. Every sunrise quietly reminds us that life keeps offering another chance to begin again. As long as you can choose, you can change. As long as you can learn, you can grow. As long as you can act, you can build a future that looks nothing like your past. So when you leave here today, don't carry home another notebook full of ideas that never become reality. Don't collect inspiration without applying it. Don't promise yourself that someday you'll finally begin. Let today become the day you stop negotiating with your potential. Take the first step, however small it may seem. Make the phone call. Open the book. Write the first page. Submit the application. Start the workout. Have the difficult conversation. Build the business. Learn the skill. Keep the promise. Because life doesn't reward intentions. It rewards action. Years from now, you'll either be grateful that you started today, or you'll be wondering why you waited so long. That choice has always belonged to you, and it still does. Your future isn't waiting for perfect conditions. It's waiting for your decision. So stop thinking, start moving, and let your actions tell the story your excuses never could.